All right, good evening. Do we have any announcements that we need to make tonight? Okay, I was informed of one. Y'all remember Angel Thomas, and now that I say that, I can't remember her husband's name. Huh? Andrew and Angel Thomas, who were with us for a while, worshiped here with us. Her brother, Angel's brother, Rod Hastings, was up in Kentucky hunting, and his his tree stand broke, and he hung upside down by his ankles for 12 hours. And he's had several surgeries and has more to go, but please keep Rod in your prayers. I'm sure the family would appreciate it. She called to let us know so that we would pray about that. Anything else? Okay, let's pray. Father, thank you for hearing our prayers. Thank you for kindly treating us and caring for us, kindly providing for us in such a way that shows just astounding grace. We know that there's nothing we could ever do to deserve your care and your love, your forgiveness. And so we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We love you for who you are and just the very thought that you have taken of us is amazing and astounding. Father, we are praying for our brother Rod Hastings and this tragic accident that's happened to him. Just pray that he will continue to improve. Those who are caring for him and providing for his needs will be able to do the things that are most beneficial, and that you'll give him recovery, speedy recovery, and that he'll be well. Guide our class tonight in our thoughts. Help us to put our lives in your hands. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so tonight we are in, again, Romans chapter 12. And we've been talking about different characteristics of Christians, duties that we have as Christians, and how we should live as a Christian, different characteristics of our lives that should be evident in our life. At verse 12 of Romans chapter 12, we're going to talk tonight about patience. The New King James and the King James says patient in tribulation. The New American Standard says persevering in tribulation. The NIV says patient in affliction. The Children's Version, the New Century Version, is be patient when trouble comes. And the New Living Translation says be patient in trouble. The idea of patience. So, how do you feel about patience? Hard to accomplish, okay? Thought I heard somebody say something over here. Nah, okay. In short supply, okay. You have to work on it, okay. Okay, yeah, that's the old adage. Yes, ma'am. I did, and I announced it, yeah. Yeah, we've all heard the adage of the man who prayed for patience, Lord, I need patience and I need it now. Even though it brings a smile to our face, it really does portray how we often feel about patience when we're pressed at work or pressed with financial challenges or family or church problems or whatever the case is, and we've got these troubles or this dynamic that is difficult or affliction, and we know it's not going to be a quick fix, and so we know we need patience, but we don't have enough patience to wait for the patience that we need. So let's look at a verse. I want you to turn with me to the book of James. We're going to look at some different places tonight. James chapter 1. In verse 2, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. So what's the ironic nature about patience from this passage? And ironic doesn't mean that which is made of iron, by the way. I just throw these out of case. Thank you, Guy. So what's ironic about it? It produces endurance, okay? Yeah, you have to go through trial to get it, but while I'm going through the trial, what do I need? I need patience. And in order to get patience, I have to go through a trial or suffer affliction, difficulty. And the ironic aspect about it is the very time that I need it is the way that it develops, is the way that we get patience. So do you get is it automatic? You go through affliction, you get patience? Huh? Okay. Okay. So patience is a aspect. It is something that we learn via the affliction or the trial or trouble or whatever it is. So it's not an automatic, right? You go through trials, oh good, I've got patience now. That doesn't happen necessarily, because I can be extremely impatient during trial and affliction. I can curse God if I want to. I can turn my back on my family. I can do any number of things that show a lack of patience. So it's not an automatic. It's not just, okay, you have a trial, boom, you get patience. And so now you have another trial. Well, I got patience before, so now I'm halfway there, or whatever the case is. To get patience, we have to endure the trials. But to endure the trials, we need patience. So what's a person to do? Practice patience, okay. Guy? Okay. Okay, yeah, that's a very good point, because usually the times that the churches across this land or across the world that are the most full are during times of war and challenge and the events of 9/11. After that, church buildings across the country, across the world were full of people. They felt a need, an affliction, even though they maybe didn't personally go through it or endure it. There was fear and challenge that came. And so sometimes affliction does lead us to that. So when do we need patience? All the time? How about when things are going great? I don't normally need patience when everything is working out wonderfully. Got a great job, my family's doing wonderful, my health is good. The bank just called and said, we made a mistake, you've got an extra $5,000 that we didn't notice. I don't need patience in those times. By the way, those have not happened to me. But you tend to feel like patience is what I need when I'm having the trial, when I'm having the challenge or the difficulty. Okay, Garrick. There's what? No time on patience? What do you mean? I don't understand. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. I see now. So when I'm at that time that it is a challenge, when the boss calls you in, and when the doctor has a I'm sorry report, or whatever, and you have to, oh no, how do I deal with this? I mean, that's the patience. Or it's going to be another 6 months before we hear anything on this. And you think, what? 6 months? And you've got to hold on for 6 more months before you hear anything? Go ahead. Okay. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's how we get it, and it hopefully helps us for when those bigger challenges come. And I mean, if we haven't faced a big challenge in our life, well, that's wonderful, but it also means what? It's coming, okay? I mean, it's what it means. You may not have it today, and maybe you haven't had it in your 20 or 50 years or whatever of life, but it's coming. There are going to be challenges, big difficulties, big challenges. How are we going to deal with that? We tend to need patience when we sense a need for patience when things are falling apart, when we're having trouble. So what kind of things test your patience? What? Family, okay. Don't want to name names, that's good, but because Joe's sitting right next to you. But what's that? But patience with family, sure. I mean, that can be a big challenge. What else tests your patience? How about when you ask a question and hardly anybody volunteers an answer, and you're the teacher? That tests my patience. Okay, Steve. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to be hesitant as to when to step in, but yes, but you're right. It is whatever it is that might be your tipping point, or whatever creates this issue that you say, there's some people who cannot stand traffic at all. I mean, just the idea of getting in a car and there's traffic around them that tests their patience beyond, hardly whatever. Or sometimes it is family. Sometimes it's just dealing with people. Maybe it's their job, the work, or tedium. Can be any number of things that can test our patience. What this is talking about here in this text, as Steve was alluding to, that's not exactly it, but it's patient in times of tribulation. That when you are facing affliction, when you are facing tribulation, when you are going through troubles, how well do you handle that? It seems like some people are just calm and placid, right? You've seen those folks? Right? I think there's dispositions that people have, that some people are definitely more keyed and more anxious and more, whatever, as some are much more placid personality-wise. Yes, I think that's certainly a part of it, but it is a learned behavior. Patience and how we deal with things is why he's telling us here to be patient in times of affliction. That is something that we can do, or he wouldn't tell us to do that. I mean, if it's like, oh yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy here because I'm not patient. Well, then learn patience. That's what he's telling you, to learn how to be patient. Well, speaking, you mentioned that about you'd have killed him. Melissa, we had some dear friends when we lived in Lakeland. They had a daughter the same age as our middle son, and Melissa used to talk to the mother of those kids on a regular basis. They were friends of ours, and finally one day Melissa called up and she said, well, I just learned something. She said that I can't kill them. So I, just wanted to let you know that. And she said, yes, she understood the same thing. So, I mean, there are days, there are times that you want to string them up, your kids, so how do you deal with that? How do you have these kind of situations? Let me see if somebody else had some. Oh, Keith. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good thought too, as far as how we deal with it in the moment. What kind of things may set a person off, and then you see the other side of that. I was thinking as was talked about a few minutes ago. I remember when my mother, at the end of her life, when she was in the throes of dementia, it was terribly difficult to try to deal with her on a day by day basis, and to sit down for 30 minutes and her ask the same question 30 times and me answer the same question 30 times. I mean, the testing of patience was definitely a challenge on those times. I mean, I'd be dishonest to say it wasn't. And did I handle it? I didn't always handle it right or perfectly either. I mean, other times I could just, yep, Mom, that's what it is, and I could answer her over and over and over and over again. Other days it was like, okay, how many times do we have to go over this? William, your mother. I mean, others have dealt with some of the same things, and it's a challenge. How do we deal with this? And how am I to be patient? The word wait, a lot of us consider it an ugly word. Nobody likes it. We don't like to wait in line. We don't like to wait when the light turns green or until it turns green. We don't like to wait for the phone when we're expecting something. We don't like waiting for that special day. We're not too excited about waiting for that check to finally come in the mail that we've been told is coming. We don't like the idea of waiting. And I think it's our push-button world that we live in now. I mean, have a microwave that does in seconds what used to take minutes. And we have computers now, 5G and Fios, that does in milliseconds, which used to take whole seconds. But it's just like we just expect instantaneous everything. And so the idea of waiting and the patience that it takes, it just gets to be, it's a tough thing. So everyone admits that we need patience, and everyone admits that it's a good thing, yet we find it so very seldom that we possess those things. So here's what you can do. If you want to see how patient the people are around you, you can try this. You can do it on your way home tonight if you care to. When you stop at a red light, when it turns green, wait an extra 10 seconds before you move. Oh, I know. But in 10 seconds, you will have a chorus of what? Horns honking at you, people gesturing at. On second thought, don't try that. It might not be safe. But Jesus was the perfect example of patience. Look in chapter 12 of the book of Hebrews. Just turn back a page or so. Chapter 12, at verse 1. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. And let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, or of the faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So, do you think it took Jesus? Did it take patience for Jesus to deal with the day-to-day challenges of the people he was around? Okay? Did we ever do that? So did it take patience to have to endure with those constant challenges of the religious elite of the day, the Pharisees, the scribes, the rulers who thought they had the corner of truth, and Jesus is dealing with them? I mean, do you think it took patience for him not to just, zap them all at the moment that he could have? I think it certainly did. Did it take patience for Jesus to put up with the shallow thinking, like Edwin was talking about, the shallow thinking of the apostles? I mean, when Jesus told them what was going to happen, we're going to go to Jerusalem, I'm going to be killed, and I'm going to raise up on the third day, and their response to that is, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And then when it does happen, their response is, what in the world just happened? I mean, he's told them. And yet the patience that it would have to have taken. Did it take patience for him to go through the sham trials that he went through, as people were actually testifying against him? Yeah. And did it take patience for him to have to hang on a cross for however short a period of time it was to go through what he did? And obviously the answer is yes. He's the perfect example. Therefore, we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, but he says, take a look at Jesus. Let us run the race that is set in front of us, looking to Jesus, who is the author and finisher of the faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So how did Jesus do it? How did he do it? Steve? Okay, he was prayerful. We know that. How else did he do it? Exactly. And he saw what the end of the story was. I mean, it says, looking that he saw all of these things for the joy that was set before him. He saw the big picture of following through or fulfilling what God wanted him to do. That's the challenge that I have. That's the challenge that you have when we're suffering affliction. When we're suffering trials or affliction, what is it that we see? That's all we see, right? That is the affliction that's right in front of us, okay? I'm dealing with this. It's overwhelming. It's suffocating me. It's ruining me. It's destroying my health, or whatever it is that I go through. I don't know that I can make it through this, and it's just overwhelming. Heard one speaker talk about one time how problems are. He said, take your phone out or take a credit card out of your wallet, and he says, now you hold that, you hold it away from you, and you look and you see, and what do you see when you're doing that? I can still see everybody and still see, all but this little tiny square of this credit card or phone that I'm holding. But what happens when I do this and I bring it up to here? That's all I see. And that's how it is with our affliction or problems or troubles. That it becomes so big, that's the only thing I see. It's all that's in front of my eyes. I can't see anything else. I don't experience anything else. And so now this problem is so big, I can't see the big picture. Can't see the whole aspect of what's going on around me. All right, Dane. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's part of that whole big picture aspect. I mean, that he has this characteristic of saying, okay, I'm even forgiving of those people who've nailed me to this cross. Father, forgive them. They don't realize what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And he sees the big picture. He's forgiving, which helps him, I guess, to have patience in the moment. So from a spiritual perspective, it's sometimes difficult for us to see ungodly people in the world who seem to just be sailing through with no problems. You ever notice that? You ever thought that about somebody? The next door neighbor, the guy that you work with, whatever, that they don't care a thing about God. And it's like, man, they've got it made. They're on easy street. They don't have any health issues. They don't have relationship issues. Their car didn't break down like mine just did, or whatever goes through our minds. they have everything. They go through life unscathed, no difficulties. They're not battling any challenges. And we sometimes grow impatient with that because we sometimes think, God, I'm trying to do the best I can. Why don't I get this blessing? Why did it happen to me? You ever thought like that before? You ever heard anybody say that before? Listen to this passage, Psalm 37. Psalm 37, beginning of verse 5. We could read a lot in this psalm, but listen beginning at verse 5. Commit everything you do to the Lord. Trust him and he will help you. He will make your innocence radiate like the dawn, and the justice of your cause will shine like the noonday sun. Be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. Don't worry about evil people who prosper or fret about the wicked schemes. Stop being angry. Turn from your rage. Do not lose your temper. It only leads to harm. For the wicked will be destroyed, but those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. Isn't that what Andrew said a few minutes ago about seeing the big picture? I mean, sometimes we think, hey, wait, how did he get away with this? Why does he get to sail through life like he does so easily? And he's nothing but a cheat, or he's done this or that, and it looks like he's getting away with it. And what he says is, don't worry about evil people who prosper. Don't fret about their wicked schemes. Stop being angry. Turn away from your rage. Don't lose your temper. It only leads to harm. For they will be destroyed. They will have to pay for what they have done or do. And on the other hand, those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. So it goes, as Keith was talking about, an element of trust. So would you agree with this, that God is patient with us? What, right? Which is us sometimes. Right? Okay, yeah. What? All right, William? Yeah. Right. And I mean, that's even a little challenging to consider, but you're right. I mean, that he's kind of like reasoning with God in this moment. But it does tell us that God, I mean, he's patient with us, but there is at some point a line that's drawn in the sand that we can cross, and God will deal with it. I mean, Moses crossed the line in the sense that you don't get to come into the land of Canaan because of what you did, okay? God could have said, well, okay, and let him come in. I mean, that he's God. I'm not going to argue with it. But God says, no, you didn't hallow my name in the presence of the people. So God's patience, if you will, he had crossed over the line, and he had gone too far. But there are times when God just puts up and puts up and puts up with us. Listen to 2 Peter chapter 3. And this goes along with what Edwin said as well. 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. But beloved, do not forget this one thing, that with the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. Does that mean that God can't count? What does that mean? Doesn't count. Okay, I kind of like that. But God is timeless in that sense, okay? So he says, the Lord, though, he goes on to say, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some would count slackness, but is long-suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come into repentance. So is God patient with us? Yes, he's patient with this world. That's the only reason we're standing here or sitting here tonight, is because of God's patience. What is God waiting for? Why doesn't he come send Jesus back? What is he waiting for? Okay, that's exactly right. And as one preacher said one time, just one more person. He's waiting for one more soul. Okay? And then when that soul comes, he's just waiting for one more soul. He's waiting for one more soul. And God wants all men to repent. And so what is God? I mean, another word for long suffering is patient. So what's the definition of long suffering? To suffer long. Okay? That God is willing to suffer long periods of time. He's able to and willing to suffer long for us with the desire that we would come to repentance. That just one more would come. That one more would come. That one more would come. Which is saying, I need to be about the business of trying to find that one more, that one more, that one more. And so do you. In fact, Romans chapter 15 and verse 5 just patently calls him the God of patience. So he is patient with us, and we should be able to say, thank God for that. I'm glad he is patient, because if he dealt with me according to my sin, or he dealt with you according to your sin, where would you be right now? Where would I be? Lost. Wouldn't have a chance, okay? I mean, there would be no possibility. Galatians, the second part of chapter 2, talking about we can't be justified by law. If we're going to be justified by law, what's the one thing we have to do? Keep the law perfectly. Okay? If I'm going to be justified by law, law in and of itself does not have pardon within it. Law is the stipulation. And so I can't be justified by law unless I keep it perfectly. I haven't done that, nor have you. And so it takes a God who's patient with us to allow us to be here and to be able to even talk about these things tonight. So we should, let me give you I'm going to give you 4 different areas tonight that we should be patient, areas that we should be patient in. Since God is patient with us, first of all, I'd say we need to be patient with God. The Old Testament prophet Habakkuk, he cried out to the Lord and he said, "O Lord," chapter 1 at verse 2, "O Lord, how long shall I cry out to you and you not hear?" Now, if you're familiar with it, what was Habakkuk crying out to God about? Okay, violence and sin is rampant in the land. And his question was, God, when are you going to do something about this? And I've been crying out to you over and over and over again, God, how long shall I cry and you not hear? I mean, I've been telling you this and you haven't done a thing, is what Habakkuk is saying. Verse 5, God says, I'm working a work in your days which, were I to tell you, you wouldn't believe, that you would not believe though it were told to you. In other words, what is God saying? I've got this thing. I'm working on it. Don't you worry, Habakkuk. I know what's going on. I know what's happening, and I'm dealing with it. And he says, now, if I were to explain all of it to you, you wouldn't be able to accept it. You wouldn't understand it. Habakkuk is a lot like some of us sometimes, where Habakkuk kind of says, okay, well then try me, God. And God says, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise up that bitter, hasty nation, the Babylonians. They're going to come in and they're going to destroy you and kick you off of the land, and you're going to be punished as a result of your sin. And so Habakkuk says what to God? You can't do that. I don't understand. Which God said, if I told you, you wouldn't understand it. So God says, okay, here, let me just give you a glimpse of it. I'm going to use the Babylonians. They're going to come in. They're going to destroy you. They're going to take you off of the land. And Habakkuk's immediate response is, I don't understand, God, because they're more wicked than we are. How can you use a more wicked nation than us to punish a less wicked nation? I don't get it. I don't understand how to do this or and what God is saying is, I got this thing. I got it. Had God been hearing Habakkuk's cry and prayer? Sure he had been. And God's answer all along was, I know what's going on. He's not telling Habakkuk, don't pray, don't cry out to me, but he says, I understand this. Is God patient? Yeah, that's what he is. He's patient. Why is he patient? So that one more would come into repentance, and that one more would come into repentance. So if this is the case, why do we sometimes grow impatient with God? I mean, would you like answers to your prayers immediately? I would. Okay, if nobody wants to speak up, I would. I would like to say, God, what should I do in this situation? I am not sure, and I'd like for God to say, Jody, here's what you... And speak to me and tell me what to do. Got it. Thank you. Then it would just be a matter of, am I going to listen to God or not? Okay? I mean, we talked about it a week or so ago. How does God speak to us today? You want to read, you want God to speak to you, read the Bible. But some of those questions that I'd like to have answers for in prayer, I'd like them right now. And I'd like to know this is the answer. So why do I grow impatient with God? I'm not on his time frame. Okay, I'm not seeing the big picture. I don't look at it like he does. I'm looking at my life or my problem that's right in front of my eyes again. And so it's a matter of I need patience and I need it now, or I need an answer and I need it now. We probably lose our patience with God more than or with other people more than anything else because we're selfish. Okay, I want it done my way. I want it done on my time schedule, and this is how I see it to be. So what do we do about that? I would suggest especially read the Old Testament. Read the Old Testament. Read those stories of what God said, I'm going to do this, and then God did that. Or if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And that's what happened. And so we gain faith and trust more in God. So first thing is we should be patient with God. Second thing I would suggest is we need to be patient with one another. That's harder than it is to be patient with God. I mean, God, I can say, well, I don't get it sometimes, but you're just a doofus. Why don't you get it? Okay? Why don't you see it my way? It becomes a challenge. So we should be patient with one another. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and at verse 13. Now we exhort you, brethren, warn those who are unruly, comfort the faint-hearted, uphold the weak. And then this last phrase that I don't like, be patient with everyone or with all. Okay? Be patient. So how well do you deal with it? How well do you deal with this, being patient with everyone? Is that real good for you? You're patiently waiting for me to ask another question? Okay, yeah. Thank you, William. At least I got a true response over there. Yeah, yes, I am, Jody. Move on. Okay, so, but we have a hard time being patient with one another sometimes. And other days, maybe it's fine. Okay, everything's fine. I'm okay. I'm kind of in that, placid land. You did this, and yesterday that would have set me off, but today I'm okay. And sadly, some of the times it is with those who we love the most in our marriage relationships, our parent-child relationships. So why do we sometimes lose our patience with one another? Yes, Dane. That's right, and they should have by now. Yeah, okay. So I know how it's going to be, how it all works out. I've got the whole plan, the whole picture, and for some reason, Dane can't get this. And so now how am I supposed to deal with somebody like that who doesn't see it in the way that he should? And it's as clear as the nose on my face, or whatever, however we might think. And so we become impatient with that. Third thing I would suggest to you is we need to be patient in doing good. Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. Galatians 6, 9, and 10. And let us not grow weary while doing good. For in due season we'll reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have the opportunity, let us do good to all, especially those who are of the household of faith. Do you ever get tired of doing good? You ever think, has it ever crossed your mind, I wouldn't mind being on the receiving end one time. I feel like I'm the one giving all the time or whatever. And get tired of doing good, especially if you're rebuffed for doing good. You do something for somebody and they turn it a different way and you think, what? Wait a minute, I'm trying to, it becomes a challenge for you. Hey, what about me? Why don't I get something to come my way sometimes is how we tend to think. Okay, and the fourth one that I would leave you with tonight is we should be patient when we suffer for our own stupidity or our own mistakes. Listen to 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 20. For what credit is it if when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if you take that patiently, this is commendable before God. What Peter's telling us is that you do something stupid, you make a mistake or you do your own thing and you suffer for that, well, you don't have anybody to cry to. Whose fault is it? Look in the mirror. It's your fault, okay? And so what he says is, if you suffer, if you're beaten for your own faults and you take it patiently, well, so what? But he says, if you do good and you suffer and you take that patiently, that's what's commendable before God. You did something good or right, like these first century Christians who are then thrown into prison or into jail because of their faith in God, and they endure that. He says, you've got something to talk about. But Jody, on the other hand, who went out and did this stupid thing and got himself in a problem and now suffered for his own mistakes, well, so what? That's what he gets. That's what he should get. That's what we deserve in that sense. So let me just wrap it up with this. Let's ask you. So what are some ways to develop patience in our life? Tell me some practical things that I can do or that you can do or the person sitting next to you can do to develop patience. Yes, Guy. Okay, so I'm the student and I want to get an A or I want to pass the class. It means do my homework today, do my reading today, or whatever, the process of getting to that end result. Okay? Yes, Krista. Right? Okay. Yeah, I think that's Absolutely. I think that's a great illustration, too, of that. I saw it used one time of a little child they brought in, and they set a piece of candy on the saucer in front of them, and they said, if you wait 5 minutes, you can have 2 pieces of candy. But excuse me, I've got to leave. And they leave the room, and they're gone for 12 seconds, and that piece of candy looks mighty good in front of them. So they eat the one instead of having the, it's very rare that the child says, okay, I'll just sit on my hands for 5 minutes and wait, and now I got 2 pieces of candy or whatever. And I think that's a great thought. Carl. Okay. Okay. And yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a very good point as well. Yeah, of trying to have a realistic expectation for myself and for others. Okay. Sandy. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's a great thought of projecting ourselves into their situation, or remembering, as you're saying, that how it was when they did this to me or said that to me or whatever the case might be. What else can you think of? Anything? I think, yeah, Dan? Okay. Okay, yeah. My mom used to say count to 10. I could count to 10 real fast, though. I learned how to do it real fast. But you're right. The idea of I'm trying to force myself to have that pause. So that, maybe it's not the natural thing that I want to do, but I'm going to force myself to have that pause or patience in that sense and try to develop it that way. All right, thank you for tonight. Appreciate you being here. Next week, we're going to talk about steadfast prayer, and in the last week of the course, we will talk about just kind of wrapping it all up.